This may be the witchiest perfume I've ever smelled precisely because it does not smell like the stereotype of a witch. Hexensalbe from Stora Skuggan is the perfume I'd like to talk about today. Hexensalbe, or witch's ointment, refers to the hallucinogenic salve associated with medieval witchcraft, traditionally imagined as a mixture of highly toxic ingredients. It was believed to induce ecstatic trance states, sensations of flight, visions of supernatural beings, and intense bodily desire. These hallucinations formed part of the mythic core of the witch, women flying to Sabbath at places where they were said to participate in forbidden rituals with the devil and other witches. What is fascinating is that this perfume is not trying to recreate an actual historical ointment. Instead, it recreates an imagination of transgression. The most compelling thing about witch's ointment is not simply its toxicity or taboo, but the way it returns the body into the medium for reaching another world. It does not approach transcendence through prayer, reason, or religious ritual, but through skin, herbs, scent, oil, hallucination, and desire. In that sense, it is extremely close to perfume itself because perfume is also a media that lives close to our skin. It does not persuade through vision, but slowly changes one's state through diffusion, residue, and a kind of intimacy with our body. The witch narrative is full of instability. On the front of this perfume's box, there is a holographic sticker. Depending on the angle, the image shifts between a black goat and a witch. The connection between these two figures comes from the medieval West, where the goat was often imagined as an inherently evil animal, while the witch was seen as an impure temptress. But this design is not just a cool piece of packaging. I believe it invites the viewer to participate in a small hallucinatory experience. It suggests that the witch is not a stable identity, but an image produced through looking, projection, and even stigma. A medieval religious and patriarchal imagination bound together goats, desire, the female body, and devil worship. This perfume takes that stigma back and turns it into an aesthetic resource. Now, let me give it a try. What is especially interesting is that this fragrance does not translate the idea of witch into a stereotypically Gothic, smoky, earth, dark fragrance. Instead, it hides danger inside something almost everyday, which is a soft, grayish herbal ointment. It smells like a salve, but not the disinfected kind you would find in a hospital. It is more like something from a folk herbal cabinet, a paste blended with sweetness, bitterness, and a sense of coolness. There is this salty, sweet quality of licorice. It can be read as the seductive, but not in a candy-like way. Its medicinal sweetness, the kind of aftertaste that makes you want to keep it at the root of the tongue. And wormwood and rosemary form the clearer, more awake side of the fragrance. They keep the scent grain, keep it herbal. And among these notes, there is tuberose. And tuberose is a very, very subtle and important presence at the background. Most of the other materials point toward herbs, poisonous plants, ointment, forests and witchcraft knowledge. But tuberose here suddenly brings everything back to our body and desire. I think it suggests that the witch in this perfume is not only a woman who knows plants, who knows the forests and prepares salves, but also a woman with sensuality, with desire, and nocturnal vitality. I think it's actually very, very gentle and very, very soft. Its radical quality does not lie in being difficult to smell. It lies in its refusal to use the usual dark perfume formula to represent witchcraft. Many perfumes inspired by witchcraft, demons, or paganism might immediately turn toward smoke, incense, leather, soil, animalic notes, bloody roses, or very heavy patchouli. But Hexensalbe is surprisingly light, intimate, and very, very herbal. This softness makes it feel closer to an ointment than to a dramatic ritual scene. It is not this theatrical image of a witch standing before the stake, but the quieter image of a witch in her own room, grinding herbs, mixing a salve, and prepare to leave the ordinary world behind. And for me, the most interesting thing about this fragrance is that it makes me think about the relationship between medieval women and the so-called sensory knowledge. And today, when we talk about witches, we may immediately think of poisonous herbs, black magic, goats, and night flight, all very, very dramatic images. But if we place the figure of the witch back into the history of medieval knowledge, the situation becomes actually much more complicated. Here, I think we can push the concept of witch's ointment one step further. The relationship between medieval women, the senses, the body, and herbs was far more complex than we often imagine today. At that time, many women could not enter universities in the same way men could. They could not receive systematic training in theology and philosophy. As a result, the way they expressed spiritual experience and knowledge were often not abstract theoretical systems, but embodied sensory and natural forms of knowledge. For example, take Hildegard of Bingen in the 12th century as an example. She was an abbess, mystic, and natural philosopher. When she wrote about divine visions, she frequently used images of light, color, sound, flame, taste, and plants. For her, the senses were not things that pull people away from God. On the contrary, they were entrances into sacred truths. She was also a healer. She recorded the healing properties of plants, mineral, and animal materials, often understanding them through taste, smell, and touch. In other words, this was a highly embodied form of knowledge. It did not treat the body as something inferior, but saw the body as a way of understanding the universe and divine order. So I do not think Hexensalbe is simply saying, oh, witches are evil, or witchcraft is dark. It touches a deeper historical threads, which is a relationship between women, plants, the body, scent, and knowledge. In some periods, sensory knowledge could be understood as secret vision, but during later witch hunt periods, similar forms of embodied knowledge could be reinterpreted as dangerous, heretical, or even evidence of the devil. The ambiguity of witch's ointment lies precisely here. It is like medicine and poison at the same time, like healing and incriminating evidence, like bodily knowledge and the kind of knowledge that power fears the most. So when I actually smell Hexensalbe, I do not find it to be an aggressive, dark fragrance. It does not have that heavy smoke, soil, animalic forces, or a deliberately frightening Gothic personality. Instead, it smells more like a herbal salve opening with wormwood and licorice, salty, slightly sweet, with a soft medicinal aftertaste. Its rebellion is not aggressive. It happens quietly. It does not turn the witch into an exaggerated Gothic symbol. Instead, it lets you smell something quieter. Her rebellion is quietly hidden inside a dream woven from herbs. So if I had to summarize this fragrance in one sentence, I would say Hexensalbe is not a perfume about black magic, but a perfume about female sensory knowledge. It brings the witch back out of the horror story and returns her to herbs, dreams, and free will. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next episode. Bye bye.